This is the Live Well and Thrive podcast, hosted by Michael Torchia, health and wellness expert. It's time to shape up, America.
Hi, this is Mike Torchia, and welcome to Live Well and Thrive. I have another exciting episode with Fabio Lanzoni. As you know, he's been known for being an actor, doing all these commercials for Can't Believe It's Butter, to being the romance model on the cover of all these amazing books. But today you're going to learn things about Fabio that you never did know. So Fabio, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Mike. It's always a pleasure to be here,
So, Fabio, I hear that you were in the Italian army.
Yeah, I was the special forces, I was parachuting. It's very much like, there's two special forces in Italy. They have the Navy SEAL, the equal of Navy SEAL, and they have the other one is like very similar to the Green Beret. And I was like for 18 months in a Green Beret type of military.
So now, did you join or did you?
No, back then was the mandatory. So
okay.
you had no choice, and because I was an athlete, it's like they go like, oh, it's like you got perfect heart, and you can do all this exercise, no problem. We're gonna send you special forces. So I didn't even there was nothing I can do. They just sent me there. And I was there for 18 months, and it was a very interesting and different time in my life, and I learned a lot of things. And the greatest thing is jumping out of an airplane. I did about 13 jumps, and it's fun. It's a lot of fun. It's not like free skydiving, it's totally different. Military parachuting, they parachute you very, very close to the ground, because the American, they discover in World War II, then actually they used to parachute their men much higher, and so the German had all the time to get there and shoot them really totally like birds, and that is the last thing you want to do, because when in the air, it's you can defend yourself. So they decide to start parachuting the military, and pretty much every single military around the world, 1,500 feet. So you're going to be, you're close to the ground, so you better the parachute opens, right? It's like, because normally you jump out, right, and you go like 1,001. That's how you count the second. You go 1,001, 1,002, 1,003, 1,004, 1,005. Those are 5 seconds. Okay?
And then you pull the cord.
No, because you hook the cord in the plane, inside the plane. So soon you jump up, and you jump up with your hands around the reserve parachute, okay? You jump out of the plane, so the string, the cord, call it whatever, it opens up rather with the parachute.
Got it.
Okay? But you have 5 seconds, and that's how you count. So you jump out of the plane and you go 1,001, 1,002, 1,003, 1,004, 1,005. Then you go 1 and 2. That's a 7 second, right? To make sure the parachute is perfectly open and it's not tangled. Okay? So that's a 7 second. And then if it's tangled, you have to make sure you shoot the parachute, the reserve, kind of like away from the parachute.
Right.
Otherwise, you're going to be on the ground very fast.
Did you ever have an incident?
No. Thank God. It's like when you're in for 18 months, you have special guys. They fold up your parachute every time you jump. So those guys, all they do all day long is folding, parachute. Then when you're in the army for a long, long time, you fold your own parachute. But I never fold my parachute, and I did 13 jumps, and each one was very successful. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here, right?
Now, what was it like the very first time you jumped out of that plane?
It's funny, because I have a couple of guys in front of me, and they didn't want to, because sometimes, they train you, right? But then you are on a plane, and when that door open, some of the guy go, I ain't going to jump. And, you have to go.
Yeah.
So the captain behind it really totally kick you in the ass and totally push you out of the plane. So guys trying to hold you, and they got
Wow.
kicked out of the plane. And I was like, hey, you have to go. Plus, I was never afraid of heights. So it was a great experience, because when you're up there and your parachute, it's open, you're perfectly fine. It's great, because you can talk to a guy who's like a miles away from you, and the guy, he'll hear you.
So you're the soldiers coming down. You can actually conversing
Right.
with them, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Because
wow.
there's silence, the absolute silence. So you can somebody far can hear you when you talk.
It sounds euphoric.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's awesome. You know,
So now,
it's such a great experience.
so as far as the conditioning, you must have loved the boot camp, right?
I'm telling you, it was hard because when you're like 18 years old, what you want to do is be in bars and be in clubs and chasing women and it's like all the good stuff, right? And all of a sudden, you have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and you have to prepare all your gear. You have really like 10 minutes to get ready and be out with everybody else in line.
Wow.
And then you have, because we're like parachuting. We had parachuting boots. Okay, those are military boots, but they're much higher than your regular boots. Okay.
To support the legs.
Yes, they're much higher.
Yeah.
So they used to make us run 10K with those boots.
Wow.
And sometimes, uphill, with rocks and ruts and stone,
You
up
must
in the
have a lot of
mountain.
blisters on your feet.
Oh yeah, and also, oh my God,
Oh.
it's like you come back and you're a mess, and then you have sometime, later like 45 pounds of gear on you,
Yeah.
and they still want you to, run, you have to do like
Incredible.
tons of push-ups. I mean, it's like, it's you have to be really fit, really, really fit.
Well, and when I was first starting out my Operation Fitness program, I had first made it for kids, and then I made it for the entire family. And my brother-in-law was a cadet at West Point. So he told the strength coach there about how I had this amazing power and strength. And so they had me come up because the soldiers, when the grunts, when they first get there, they would have to put all the gear on, the backpack, the rifle, the heavy boots and everything, and it totaled about 150 pounds because
Right.
they all get soaking wet, right? So they had him go up the ladder to the 15-foot diving board, jump off into the pool, and then they'd have to walk with all their gear, carrying the rifle, the big backpack, out of the low end and get out of the pool. 95% of them, I had to jump in the water to get them. So I had to do a vigorous conditioning program because they weren't in the condition that possibly to
Right.
just do that, and that was their test. If you can physically be fit, did they ever put you through tests, something like that?
Oh yeah, we have tests where actually, we had a piece of work captain. This guy, he was in a mercenary for almost like 30 years. I mean, he used to go around killing people. He was actually, mercenary, right? They get
Yeah.
paid to kill people, and he did that almost for 30 years. He was going from a different country and getting paid to kill, And it's funny because he was very proud of how many people he killed, and I remember he was from Yugoslavia. He was not even an Italian guy, and he was a really, really tough captain because first he joined when he was young the Foreign Legion. And when you go to Foreign Legion,
Wow.
you're pretty much like you're a criminal, right? That's why you go to Foreign Legion because
Yeah.
they cancel your pass, you get a new name and everything, right? And so that's why they go there. And a lot of those guys are criminals. And then, from the Foreign Legion, they go into be mercenary and they go around the world, especially in Africa, just killing people for money. So I remember he was a tough guy, and he was very proud of how many hundreds of people he killed. And I remember our colonel, he was even afraid of him. He was a captain. He was our captain, right? And even the colonel, he was totally afraid of him. He will go in the colonel's office, and when in America, when you are a captain and you go a superior to a colonel or a general, I mean, you're like. You're well behaved. He used to go in the office and throw his feet over the desk and
Wow.
Oh, we heard him one time. We were throwing hand grenades, fake one. They teach you how to throw hand grenades, and of course,
Yeah.
you practice, and those one they're fake. But in the meantime, if they explode between your legs, they'll still give you a burn. You're not gonna, you're not gonna have parts of your body flowing away. Okay. And I remember one time one of my friends, he threw the hand grenade, and hand grenade totally landed very close to the colonel. right? And it blow up, and of course the colonel jumped up, right? And our captain, who was like I told you, the mercenary,
Yeah.
right? He had a megaphone, and he was like, bah, bah,
Oh, my
you
God.
freaking ship. He's like, this guy, he was like used to real grenade, right? So when he saw the colonel jump up for a fake one. Even if a fake one, if it explode between your legs, it can give you burns, right? He was, oh my God! He was constantly teasing him.
Was he intimidating looking?
Oh, he was tough. The guy was a killer. The guy was I'll tell you, he was a serial killer.
Unbelievable. So now, did you do sniper and all the things
Oh
with
yeah,
the guns?
we did. Of course, shooting all the stuff but it's like nobody gets trained. Maybe the Israeli, but it's like, but nobody gets trained like the American soldiers. Matter of fact, even European soldiers, they want to be rescued by American soldiers because it's like not from European brothers. Because the American soldiers, they're some them and Israel, they have the best armed forces in the world.
Oh,
I mean, but even
incredible.
America, between Green Beret, Navy SEAL, Ranger, Delta Forces, it's like they have the best of the best.
Yeah. So now, did you have to cut your hair?
Shaved.
Did you have that long, beautiful hair?
Yeah, I had. I
How
was
did you
modeling.
feel? You must have had a heart
I
attack.
was modeling, and they go like, it's like I was modeling when I went in the army. They shaved my head with. First they cut my hair, and then they shaved it
with
razor,
and then the razor?
and foam. It's like, well, yeah.
Wow. Boy, you must
bold,
be devastated.
Right? No, well, I had to. There's no other way. But it was so funny because my captain, right, after like 3 months, my hair they were like barely, like an inch, and I go like, "Oh, you think you're a hippie?" He's like, "Go and cut your hair." I'm like, it's like, it's the barely an inch, and I'm like, "No, that's too long."
Wow.
So
Amazing.
it was funny, but it's like even when we practice, NATO practice all together. I mean, the Americans so far superior. I remember, we playing, war games, right? And many times, some of us will like walk on top of the American guy because they were so camouflaged that well,
Wow.
right? That we couldn't even see them. I mean, this is totally different, And also, when you are like in a European army, you have to serve a year. Back then, it was 18 months, but then they brought it down to a year, and then now is like United States.
Oh, so you
It's
can join if
voluntary.
you were-
Yes,
right.
yes. But you're in and out. It's not a career move like in America. You join minimum, I think, like 5 years.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Plus, people they have a career. But
But you get the education and the
right, of course,
bond
of
and
course.
everything.
No,
That's good.
in Italy they don't give you the education. You get the education, in school, and then when you go in the military, it's all strict training.
So now, after the military, what did you do?
Well, after the military, I came to United States because finally I got my passport back. Because I'm telling you, when you're 17, and then you have to go and serve the army, so when you turn 18, okay. If you don't go to university, right away, you have to go to the army. Okay, so I finished high school, so I was like 17. So they took my passport away. Your passport expire when you're like 17 and a half.
Right.
Expire, okay? So they make sure you can get out of the country.
Oh, so you can't go AWOL.
You can. So
So
they
they
make
practically
sure that,
owned you.
right, they own you.
You're property of the Italian army.
Right. And so, I mean, you have to have like major heart problem or major, physical problem for them not to, make you join the army. Otherwise, you go.
Yeah.
You go. And
So-
then, people, they just do it because they have to do it for like a year or 18 months. And so, they don't put so much, they just do it because they have to do it.
Well, your parents must have been proud of you.
Yeah. I mean, I was
You were a handful.
I was a handful, I was a handful.
So now you got back to the modeling after you came to the U.S.
Yes, right away. Yes,
and then you started doing
the Gap and all the big campaign, and soon.
and you're still doing that.
Yeah, soon I got here. I still get a lot of requests in modeling and acting. I still do.
That's
And
fantastic.
it's great. But yeah, when I came to United States, right away, I came to United States, and it was a Sunday night. On a Monday afternoon, went to see a couple agency, Ford Modeling Agency. It was the biggest agency back then in New York City and in the world. They signed me up right away. I walk in without an appointment, and 45 minutes later, I walk out with a contract.
Wow.
On a Tuesday afternoon, or it gets better, on a Tuesday afternoon, they go, Fabio, it's too bad that you got here a week later because they were casting the biggest campaign in the United States. In different cities like New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Chicago, Miami, looking for 2 male model and 2 female model to launch the biggest campaign in the United States. And they go like, you're too late because they already closed the casting last week. But you know what? We're going to send you to the Barry McKinley, who back then was one of the top 3 photographers in the world. So he can use you for future jobs. So I remember going to see Barry McKinley. My English wasn't that good. And I see, and I look at my book, and all of a sudden he picks up the phone and, call somebody, right? And then he goes like, I'm going to see you soon. So I thought, okay, that's great. Then I go back to my agency, and back then Ford used to be on 59 between 1st and 2nd uptown.
Yeah.
And I go there, I walk in, and everybody was like, with their mouth open. And I goes, Fabio, never happened in history of modeling. And I go like, what? You went down there to see Barry McKinley. He called the clients, and he canceled the 2 male models. And now you are leaving day after tomorrow to shoot the biggest campaign in the United States.
Wow.
And that was the gap.
Fantastic.
And so, back then when I got in New York, top male model used to make about $125,000 a year, right? Back then was a lot of money. And my first job was $175,000 for 20 days. So,
wow.
yeah, it was crazy, it was.
But you have this unique energy. It's not just your stature, the strong jawline, the accent. When you walk in a room, you command attention.
Oh, thank you.
Only very few people like Arnold Schwarzenegger had that same it factor. But I'm so happy for you.
Oh yeah, it was. It was like totally was. My success was overnight, and it was crazy because talking about living the American dream. I was just off the plane. It's like.
Wow.
First day in New York, signed with the biggest agency in the world, and my second day, I'm getting the biggest campaign in the entire country. And so my father was very, upset when I left, and he was waiting for me to call and come back with my tail between my legs and say, Dad, and I ran out of money, So I call him, a few days later, and he's thinking, oh, here we go. He's going to ask me for money, right? And I go like, Dad, you will not believe. I just got here, and I got, an $175,000 campaign for the next 20 days. He was so mad at me. Instead to be, oh, that's great. He was so mad at me.
Burning up
He
inside.
hung up on me. Oh, I don't want to talk to you. It's like,
Yeah, my father was the same way too. Tough Italian.
Yeah, it's tough Italian. The old generation that came from, World War II, and, they grew up pretty tough. They grew up escaping, bullet and bomb drop from the sky. It's like when you have to dodge bombs and bullets, it's, you have no time to think about what kind of, gender you are,
Yeah, that's for sure. My father was a staff sergeant in the Army, and he would show me pictures of being in Africa and India and all these places. And I remember one time he showed me pictures of all these headhunters. And my father said they took a liking to him because he said they were beheading soldiers, they didn't care. But he said they got intrigued by him. He was a very big, powerful man, your height, Italian accent. And he's smiling there with all these guys, and they were holding heads in the picture. And I remember they had big machetes. But my father was like a fearless warrior. And he came to America when he was 20 on the boat, Ellis Island there. And his name is on the wall. And he joined the Army. He said, I want to protect and serve our country. And he was proud of being a soldier.
Yeah.
And so I remember seeing his jacket and all the stripes he had. But I'm sure you felt proud of yourself.
Well, let me tell you. I will defend America in a bit. I will not defend Italy.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
I love this country so much then I will give my life for this country. I will protect this country, but not for Italy.
So corrupt.
Oh, and plus, it's. I've been around the world. I've been in so many countries around the world, and many times it's crazy. But it doesn't matter where you're born. But then when you travel the world and you explore and you go in different places around the world, and you open your vision, you open your mind, different cultures, and all of a sudden you come to America and you go like, oh my God, I feel home, and I never felt home before. I was always felt like a fish out of the water living in Italy or going other countries. I said, man, yeah, I like this country, but I wouldn't live here. When I came to the United States, I was 13 years old. And soon off the plane, I go like, oh my God, I feel home. I love this place.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place.
Oh, it's the most beautiful place on earth,
I mean, I like to travel, but I can't wait to get home.
Of course, of course. And, that's why, we have the American dream. That's why it's not called the Japanese dream or the Asian dream or the Italian dream or the German dream, right?
Yeah.
It's called the American dream. And there is because it's only this country give people, in the other country, they think, oh, you're too young, you're too stupid, let us, the dinosaurs, let the old guy, we're the wise one, we're the, let us run the country. We tell you what to do. Okay, America is totally different. America go like, okay, you say you can do this, doesn't matter the age, right? They say, okay, do it. They give you the opportunity to express yourself. That's the beauty of America.
Yeah.
The rest of Europe and a lot of part in the world, everything is controlled by the dinosaurs. People that've been there for the longest time, old people, they have old mentality. Nothing is new. That's why they don't grow. A lot of those countries, they don't grow. They're the same. And Italy is one of those countries. They still live on the Roman Empire. Like so proud. Roman Empire. It's like, dude, that was 2,000 years ago. It's like
it's so funny. My father would share stories with me. I said to him one time, I said, how come there's so many Italians with the name Tony? He said, Mike, you don't understand. It means to New York. To New York. So they decide, I changed my name, Tony, to New York. And that was a thing. It's because I have like 5 cousins that are Tony.
That's funny.
Right. But when my father came here, he said, I came here for the American dream.
Yeah.
And what he did was he had 3 brothers and 6 sisters. So as he made money, he sent one of them over at a time. So his whole family came here, and they all thrived. They excelled in everything, from the restaurant business to landscaping to construction.
Right.
But that's how the mentality was in Italy for him, was you come to America, you pursue your dream, and then you bring the rest of the family. Then he brought his mother and father over here. And it was a beautiful story he shared with me, how America is
the best country in the world. And the true American are the people that love this country. Those are the true American. Doesn't matter where you're from. If you love this country more than anything, you're a true American.
And you know what I can't understand? Richard Gere moved to Europe. All these people moved
to
Europe.
Oh, please, and then they don't. They don't. It's like,
but they don't. Yeah, right.
You see, they're full of shit. Okay, they are hypocrites because it's like do like I did. Okay, Italy was kind of when you wear something it's too tight, it's not comfortable, right? I get out because it wasn't for me. And when I came in this country, I was like, wow, this is me, okay? And I felt home for the first time in my life. So I tell the people, instead to talk is cheap.
Yeah.
Do action. Action was really count. You don't like this country, you hate this country, okay? You trust this country, make you look stupid. When you shit, where you eat, make you look stupid. Yeah. So what you should do, keep your words. Don't like this country is disgusting, this country is da-da-da-da-da-da. Get out. Go whatever you want. The world is a big place. There is many places, but I guarantee you, after a few years, you're going to live in some place, you're gonna miss United States, and you're going to want to come back.
When Frank Stallone went over with his family and Sly to Italy to shoot that episode in Rome for the reality show, they both said when they came back, no place like
No.
They couldn't wait to get home.
Yeah.
They saw corruption, just how the crime in the streets.
Yeah.
was terrible.
Corruption is it's beyond. You know, in Italy, it's like, you know, it's one of the most corrupted. You know, you got the most corrupted politician. You know, is up there with Russia and Ukraine. You know, it's like it's you know, super corrupted. You know, you don't go anywhere if you don't pay under the table.
And then didn't you say that the waterboarding started?
Well, yeah. What happened is like, okay, let's go back. You know, most of the people in this country, they don't understand the Vatican. The Vatican, everybody thinks because it's in Italy, it's part of Italy. It's not. The Vatican is a state, is a country. Okay, is a country in the country. As a matter of fact, if you're an Italian police and you go inside the Vatican with your, you know, suit, you get arrested. As a matter of fact, who defend the Vatican is the Swiss Guard. So the Vatican army is the Swiss Guard. Okay, so that's who defend the Vatican, and the Vatican is it's a state. Okay, it's a country. And like any country, also they have their military power, and those are called the Jesuits. Okay, people don't understand. There's so many different branches of the Catholic Church, and that's what people don't understand.
So they have their police, then they have their army.
Well, you have the Dominican, the Franciscan, the Jesuit. You have so many.
Right.
You know, it's like United States. You have the Army, Navy. It's like you Special Forces. You know, like the Vatican has a lot of different branches, and many times they don't get along. You know, like actually the Jesuit, they were like cast out because the Jesuit came about in 1500. And the guy who totally founded the Jesuit, he was a captain. He was a captain of the Spanish army, okay? And he was the first to, establish the Jesuits in the Vatican, okay? But because they were horrible and they did a lot of horrible things in history, in the 1800s, the Pope totally kicked them out. And not only the Pope, the majority of the country in Europe, they kicked the Jesuit out because they were troublemakers. You know, they were very liberal, they were very progressive, and and a lot of people, and they were always trying to cause trouble into the country. So, like Portugal, Spain, France. I mean, in France, they caused the revolution. You know, the French was caused by the Jesuit. Even Napoleon said, it's like they are the most skilled assassin. So he wasn't afraid of anybody except the Jesuits. So, it's like they totally got kicked out. Even Switzerland kicked them out because they were like totally troublemakers, and people don't understand. They think, is the one they're supposed to be the one, it's called the Jesus Legion, right? Everybody thinks they're only, and they're everything but only. I mean, they always think about, they're a troublemaker, and that's why the Catholic Church even kicked them out. And, if you want to, sometime I got into conversation, and I'll tell you, there's a lot of good priests, and what I like the most about the Catholic Church are the monks, because those are the ones, they live it.
Right.
Okay, the Franciscan, from St. Francis, those people, they live Jesus. Okay, they live the real thing. I believe God choose few people to be his representation on earth, but a lot of people choose, to be God's representation, but doesn't mean they are God's representation on this planet. Now, a lot of those, they're hypocrites, because they don't live it. If you have a representation of God, remember, the clothes doesn't make the monk. You have to be a monk in your soul, right? So when I grew up in the middle of the Catholic Church, so I saw a lot of hypocrisy, all my life. I was seeing this guy, he was telling how to do and how to live your life, and then they were like a totally different life, Yeah. So they were hypocrite because they were pointing a finger at you and tell you what a big sinner you were. And then they lived, a very different life. And a lot of my friends, they were kind of afraid because, back then, oh my God, it's like a priest or, would say something to you or to your parents, they would take it by the letter. And I'm like, no, you know what? I don't buy it because I see you don't live it. You're a freaking hypocrite. Okay, so they used to call me the son of the devil, the antichrist, and all the stuff because I used to have fights with them all the time, and all my friends say, "Oh my God, Fabio, it's like they're a representation of God," and they're like, "No, they are not a representation of God. They abuse kids, they beat kids. I mean, it's like Jesus was about love. This everything but love. And plus, I remember to see, and me and a few friends, we saw one of our priests, Tolly, picking up a hooker on the street in the car. Yeah, we saw him.
Wow.
So, I go like, do you see? I mean, what do you think is
Yeah.
is going to give him
Yeah.
the
He
benediction,
couldn't
the
resist,
blessing,
He couldn't resist temptation.
Right. So, I saw a lot of hypocrisy. And also the history of the Catholic Church is unbelievable. As a matter of fact, it's like, I'll tell you, there is a lot of good priests, and there is a great, and I have total admiration for the monks because those are the real thing. But, the top monks, they never get along with the Pope. They never get along with a lot of the priests because they saw, like I saw a lot of people that were hypocrites.
Right.
So they were always, against, and even if they were like saint, the Catholic Church didn't make them a saint because they were against the Catholic Church because they saw at that level there was so much corruption, and people don't understand. I mean, if you go back, like in 1492 during the Inquisition, where the Dominican are the one they pretty much the branch of the Catholic Church. They are the one who created all the worst torture or machine. They are the one who invented waterboarding. Was called waterboarding today was being used by the Dominican in Europe.
Incredible.
Back then, during the Inquisition.
I always wondered where that created.
That was nothing. That was the easiest, the nicest way they used to torture. They went after the Jewish people, all over in Portugal, France, Spain, all over Europe, in Holland, they went big time after the Jewish people, and they created the worst machine that was splitting people in half, and crazy stuff, and that was all the Catholic Church who did that, and then of course it's like when the conquistador went to South America, of course a lot of people from the Catholic Church, they went over there, and what the conquistador did. In the name of Christ, they killed a bunch of people. They actually exterminated Incas, Mayas, all those, because they had a lot of gold. They have a lot of, they were so wealthy. Gold. They have so much gold, and so the Catholic Church in history did over and over and over. Even in our modern time, in 1980, I don't know if you heard, Banco Ambrosiano was the Catholic Church, got caught. Number one, was the most corrupted bank in the world. They even got caught financing the war, the island Falkland War between the English and the Argentinian. And the Catholic Church was financing all the army for the Argentinian. So when they got caught, they had so much power. I remember, I was a teenager. I remember when the news was out for a few hours, and then it was totally disappeared, blocked from the Catholic Church. Nobody was talking about. So now the CEO, Calvi, he was the CEO of Banco Ambrosiano, who was doing, and that was what's called today the Vatican Bank, because the Banco Ambrosiano got destroyed because it's like there was so much corruption. I mean, every single gangster, mafia,
they were laundering their money.
They were
reading
that,
right,
the big time money laundering, and they would, and so and also financing wars, right? So all of a sudden, Calvi disappeared. Because everybody was after Calvi because he was the CEO, he wouldn't know exactly what was going on in the Bank of the Vatican, Banco Ambrosiano. And so he ran away, and he ran to England. And Scotland Yard, they find them, a few weeks later, hang under the bridge, right? And they made it look like a suicide, but actually Scotland Yard said, no, this doesn't look like a suicide. They make it look like a suicide, but the guy didn't kill himself. They killed him, right? And the Catholic Church go like, this is one of our own. We're going to take back the body. You have no jurisdiction over his body. We're going to take back the body, and we're going to do our internal investigation.
Oh,
And of course, I would never heard anything from from that. Then also when now the Bank of the Vatican, it's like we have in Italy they have like here you have the FBI, right? Italy have this section of the police called Digos. Digos are the one they monitor all the phone calls and everything, right? And they did a beautiful one-time documentary, and they interview the head of the Digos in Italy, and they say, you always capture, phone calls and like mafia, like dirty money laundering and terrorist money, and goes, and is inside the Bank of the Vatican. Why you don't go and arrest them, right? And he goes like, I'm an Italian cop. Okay, we have nothing to do with the Vatican. If we go inside the Vatican, they're going to arrest us because they're a country. And so we can go in. It's almost like invading another country.
How big is the Vatican?
It's not that big, but it's very powerful.
But they were able to sanction that as a whole
it's like it's a country, yeah. It's a country. That's what people understand. That's why the Jesuits, okay, as a matter of fact, the head of the Jesuit is called the Superior General. It's not called the Monsignor. It's not called a bishop or a cardinal. It's called the Superior General.
And then besides all that money they have in the bank, they have an incredible art.
Oh, totally. The museum,
Statues, paintings, and
totally. Listen, if the Vatican wants, they can end world hunger. They have so much money. I mean, just think about prime real estate. They have all the prime real estate all over the world. Okay, you come here in Los Angeles, they're right here in Beverly Hills. You go to New York, the church, they're right here in Beverly Hills in Santa Monica. You go to New York,
the Good Shepherd Church.
Yeah, you go to New York, right on St. Patrick, around on site.
They own St. Patrick?
Of course.
Wow, I didn't know that.
They do. They have their own, they own a bunch of cemetery. They own all the churches around the world. I mean, they have so much money. And, so if really they want to finish, poor people and so on, they have so much money. But no, right now they're going crazy and mad because USAID stop the financing because all this money, like just in the United States, $133 million that were going to the Catholic Church to feed the poor. How many million do you need a year to feed the poor in the United States? Yeah. I don't think it's 133 million.
No, we could solve homeless.
Right. Few million, and all the rest, you pocket the money. And do you remember the major child abuse and sex molestation and so on?
Yeah.
So, the Catholic Church is so, and I tell you, there is a lot of good priests and a lot of good people, but also, it's like there was godly people and there was the devil inside the Vatican.
Yeah.
And they show it through history, on and on and on and on and on. So it's crazy, but it's like it. So like I said before, if they want to end the world hunger, they can do that because they have so much money, so much money.
Well, I was brought up Catholic. In fact, I went to a Catholic high school. I went to a Catholic college, and there were so many wonderful priests. But then there was a handful of the priests that were questionable.
Yeah.
And I remember one time this priest kept asking me would I like private study. And I said, no, Father, my mom is tutoring me. He said, well, you can come anytime. Why don't you come upstairs? So I remember a lot of the boys were going up there, and then I heard like a lot of the kids left the school. They would disappear. So then he kept pushing me one time, grabbed my arm around and pulled me up. Said, no, come up. We need to read the Bible and all that. I said, no, Father, I don't want to do that. So I went home and told my father. My father said, get in the truck. Drove over there with his Ford pickup truck. He said, find the priest. Went over there. He told the priest, you don't ever touch my son. I don't care what you do with any other kids. You don't touch my son. You got that? The priest wouldn't even look in my direction. They eventually, about a few months later, found out he was doing some questionable things, and he was moved over to another school.
Well, let me tell you a couple different story about the Catholic Church. There was this guy was Marcel. He was a Catholic priest from Mexico. He's the one who created the Legion for Christ. Okay, this guy was the most corrupted, the most biggest pervert on the planet. Okay, the guy got a woman pregnant, got 2 kids from the woman. He even molested and screwed his own kids.
Oh, God.
Okay, then he was trying to totally like bring all the young generation, all the kids, right? So I mean, this guy he used to use drugs on the kids. He used to drug himself, and then he used to. I mean, this guy. We're talking about thousands of kids. They've been sexually molested, sexually abused, and everything by this priest. Okay, and it was a very highly back then respected priest. Okay. He was bringing all this youth into the Vatican. And then they found out he was a major, major child molester. But he used to tell all the kids, you know what, if you ever say something to your parents, not only you going to go through hell, but also your parents. So all the kids, they were like, they were like so messed up, because they're like, oh my God, if I say something, it's like not just I'm going to go to hell, but that's how, how sick the guy was, and also, it's like, like I said before, it's like, and as a country has been around for a long time, thousands of years, okay?
Yeah.
So, like, you remember all the kids that came out all of a sudden in America, and they were like, and of course, lawyer, they were trying to sue the Vatican, and there was a big thing,
suits,
right? Yeah. They didn't go anywhere because the Vatican put everything under what's called the cemetery trust. Okay, so all of a sudden everything is owned by the cemetery trust in the United States. So all those victims all of a sudden went all the way, and they didn't get a dime. So they got sexually, mentally, physically, and spiritually abused. So they're never going to be the same in their entire life. And on top of that, they didn't get a penny, because the Vatican, they know they're so corrupted, and they know how to wiggle. They're like an eel, they know how to wiggle and between the laws. So they create this cemetery trust, which like it's waterproof. I mean, it's bulletproof.
Well, that's disheartening. But you're right about when a priest says to someone, "You go to hell." Because I remember times when my mother would get mad at me. If you do that, you're going to go to hell. And that scared me.
Right.
That's a very powerful tool.
Right. Totally.
Especially when you're a young Catholic and you brought him that church about heaven and hell, And so I could see how he used it as a very powerful manipulative tool.
Totally. And even like under John Paul II, the Pope from Wojtyla, the Pope from Poland.
Yeah.
Well, it's like there was a lot of, in Europe and Africa, there was a lot of convent where they were getting impregnated by priests, right? And so because they were afraid of scandals in the convent, they used to pretty much do an abortion with the hanger. And a lot of these nuns, they were getting infected, and then they weren't taken even to the hospital, because of afraid of
afraid to get out, yeah.
Right, and so a bunch of nuns, they start dying in convents because they were pregnant, and they did the abortion, and then they got infection, and I remember back then this nun went to John Paul II and said, this have to end, you have to put a stop, otherwise I'm going to go to the media and talk about it. And of course, the Pope didn't do anything. And then she went to the media, and that's why, it came out as a big scandal. So, I mean, there is a lot of the scandal going, on and on and on, because, the most corrupted part of the church, beside, of course, the Jesuit, is the bishop and cardinal. It's like mafia. It's like mafia, you know. And so you have a lot of good priests and few bad apple. You got amazing, you know, monks, but you know there's nothing they can do because you know it's like who really runs between the Jesuit and between the cardinal and the bishop. You can go. I mean, it's like the big mafia bosses.
Yeah.
Okay, you can go.
Well,
You know, against those people.
You know, I remember when I was training Matt Damon for the Born Identity, and I was in France. I went to Notre Dame for the first time, and the nuns there would have these habits that looked like the flying nun.
Uh-huh.
I gotta say, they were so lovely. They heard my accent and they welcomed me into the church. And then I'd go every Sunday at 11 o'clock. Well, I was there for like 9 months, and my mother was so elated that I was at Notre Dame, you know. And across the street there was this La Chaise or something, was a cafe. So what I would do after Mass, I would take all the nuns. There was like 6 of them. We'd go have breakfast every Sunday. I gotta say, they didn't talk about religion.
No.
They talk about life.
Oh,
happiness,
they're great people.
Beautiful pureness. And I just said to myself,
those are the real
you hope.
right. Those are the real representation of God. I remember, you know, I used to get into fight with priests all the time, and you know what? I remember in one school there were 2 monks, okay, and they took me under their wing, and they got into a fist fight over me with the priest because they were defending me because they go like, this kid, man, he can see something that other kids can. He's telling the priest they're hypocrite. And these 2 monks, they knew those priests that were hypocrite.
Yeah.
So this guy, the kid is telling you the truth. I mean, you're an hypocrite. It's like, you know, and that's why I'm telling you, some of the biggest, you know, there were like 2 major saints, you know, like one was St. Francis, guy who created the Franciscan, the order of the Franciscan. And then there was also Padre Pio, who got the stigmata. Okay, I mean, how much do you want? I mean, he got tested from every single medical doctor around the world and say, yeah, we don't know. I mean, this is real.
Yeah.
This is real. He was a real saint. I knew one fact, and you could go to him, right, for confession. That's how only the guy was. He knew all the sin you committed. So he will tell you, you just, you know, I'm here, Father, to confess my sin.
Yeah.
You didn't have to say anything. He was like, okay, and tell you every single sin. He
Wow.
could see through every single sin. I remember my father went one time. He goes, Fabio, I'm never going to go again. My God, he's like, he knew everything about me. I didn't open my mouth, you know?
Well, you know, I remember one time, I hadn't gotten to church for quite a while. It was like 11 years, right? And my mother and father said, you got to go confession, come with us. I said, okay. So I was living in California, and I went to church with him that Sunday. So my father says, get in there, confess your sins. So my father started hearing the priest get loud, right? And then I came out. He said, what happened? Well, geez, he wants me to say 11 Hail Marys and 7 Our Fathers. He goes, what the hell did you do? I said, hey, I can't share. It's top secret what I share with the priest, right? But he was mad that I waited 11 years to go, right? And, you know, it was just silly stuff. But he did get very, very mad at me. But I never forget the look on my father's face, and he goes, 11? And 9? and so my father just shook his head. My mother goes, 9 years.
Yeah.
But I never went to confession again.
But I'm telling you, you know, like Padre Pio was a saint, but he really was in conflict with the Catholic Church. Okay, so many. I mean, there were like probably 250,000 people that used to go see him. Okay, and he did so many miracles, and all the miracles they're like legit.
Yeah.
But the Catholic Church never made him a saint because he was against the Catholic Church. He was always poking at the Catholic Church because he knew, as a real representation of God, the Catholic Church was totally corrupted and rotten.
Well, he sounds like he was intuitive.
Oh, it was
You could
it was more
feel
than that. He
this,
was so
the
connected. He
truth.
was so connected. I mean, this guy, you know, I mean, people that are crippled, people with cancer, and he will cure them, just ending his hand on them.
Yeah.
You know, and being, you know, and then they went back to the medical, and the medical, they were like, "Is it possible? You were crippled all your life, and now you walk normal." I mean, it's like, and
That-
like thousands of those, you know, throughout his life, and he was an amazing individual, but he always saw, you know, the corruption and the crooked of the church, you know. So that's why, you know, he deserved to be a saint, and they didn't make him a saint.
It's a shame. But before we go, I got to ask you a question. I had so many people write to me
Yeah.
from the last time we had our conversation. They know that you're into cars.
Oh, I love cars.
And they, just what is your one most favorite car?
No, I have so many. I have so many. You know, it's like I mean, I believe some of the best cars in the world, they are definitely Porsche, Lamborghini, Mercedes make also, you know, like top quality car when you go on the most
So you
expensive
prefer exotic
models.
as opposed to classic?
Yeah, modern.
Okay.
I like modern. I like, you know, I'm into high performance, you know, technology, you know, coming from, my father was a top engineer, so I love that, you know, I love the newest, you know, invention, you know, faster and better and
So what do you
better
think about
stopping
electric opposed to
powers.
gas?
Was that?
Electric to
Well,
gas
you know, the
power.
electric, they're not even close where they're gonna be. I mean, you know, you have like a, you know, 13 feet long battery by 6.5 feet wide, and they're like a, you know, time bomb. You're driving over a time bomb, and if one of those cars catch on fire, there is no way you can, you know, water doesn't do anything to those battery. You know, lithium, when it catch on fire, you know, the car will burn down to the ground for 4 or 5 days.
Yeah,
You
no,
can't,
I'll
can't,
never have an
you
electric
can put
car.
off, you
No.
can put off the fire on a lithium battery car. So I know there's some company now they're working to make a solid state battery, and that's where actually the technology is going to come and help all the electric, you know, battery. You know,
But don't you? I mean, how I feel.
I
I have a
always-
Ducati motorcycle.
yeah,
When I'm on that motorcycle and hear the purr of that engine, the roar
yeah,
of
of
the
course,
engine.
the motor.
When
and
when I would get in my Aventador, the power,
of course,
the sound
it's
of the
raw
engine.
power.
You don't
It's-
have that in an electric
no,
car.
no.
It's exhilarating.
Yes, yes.
So
it
what is the new car you want? You said mention a Porsche. You
Yeah,
did.
yeah. It's you know, I tell you, I love you know, Porsche, Mercedes, you know, Lamborghini, Bentley, Aston
But you have a
Martin
new
makes
Porsche
beautiful
you're ordering,
cars.
correct?
Was that?
You have a new Porsche you're ordering, a brand
Yes,
new.
yes, and you know, it's like I have a lot of the limited edition Porsches, like GT2 RS, GT3 RS, and I'm actually trying to order the new GT3 RS. They're amazing. They're like you know, it's like the most amazing truck cars. I mean, they're like, you know, every single car was built for the street. GT2 and GT3 RS, it was a car was born on a racetrack, and then because it was so good, it was so great, then the company brought that car into the street. So that is a real
And it's called
racing
GTS.
GT3
Oh, GT3
RS.
RS.
Right. And then there's the more powerful one is called GT2 RS. Most of the people, they think the GT3 because of the number.
The higher number, yeah.
Right. It's no. The GT2 RS is twin turbo. So that car is about 750 horsepower with just changing the chip. It'll bring it up to 900. Okay. 2-wheel drive and 4 steering wheel. I mean, all the wheels.
All 4 wheels.
All
turn-
4.
Oh my God.
So,
Must handle unbelievable.
if you're trying to stay behind that car,
Well,
you
when
kill
you get this
yourself.
car, I'm going to have to take a ride with it.
Oh yeah, and then the GT3 RS is aspirated, no turbo.
Oh,
So it sounds like a
right
Formula
off the
One.
ground too.
Sound like a
That
Formula
torque.
One car. You know.
You know, some of the turbos they have that lag
Uh huh.
when you know. But I have the AMG GT63, the turbo twin engine.
But you know, you can fix that. You know who makes the okay? German, they're very proud of their, and you know, because they're the best engineer in the world. Okay,
Right.
in technical things. But you know who makes the best turbos? America. There is a company named Garrett. They do also the turbine, the turbo for the helicopter, okay? And you see they created a ball bearing spinning turbo, then they have no legs. And they're like, and they make big turbos. So you take your little tiny KKK from Germany,
Yeah.
and you swap it up for Garrett turbo. You will not. The car will be a monster.
And that's why I never understood a lot of these cars that had the turbo engine. I'd step on it, you'd have that lag.
Right.
I like to go right off the line.
Right. That's
strong.
why you just change the intake and you just change the turbine, and you put like a silicone hoses because they're much more resistant. Because
Right.
otherwise, those turbo they will blow your hoses wide open. They'll like blow the hose. Okay. You have to get much bigger, much stronger hoses. Those are silicone hoses.
In fact, on my Mercedes, the turbochargers, when I mentioned, we had to replace the motor mounts. The engine was so powerful, it snapped the motor mounts. And luckily, I wasn't going fast at the time. Light went on, told me, can I go beyond 50 miles an hour? I went in, they said, thank God you brought us to service. He said, this engine could have blown up because it was about to fly off. It's just amazing. So I that's why I'm so glad with Mercedes. It tells you if there's anything malfunctioning.
Oh yeah.
A older car, you may not know.
People forgot that actually Mercedes invented the car. Okay? So his name was Carl Benz, and his daughter was Mercedes. That's why it's called Mercedes-Benz.
I never knew that.
And he was the inventor of the car. So Mercedes, for the longest time, taught the world how to build cars. As a matter of fact, back in the days, Mercedes used to win every single competition. There was nothing. They used to do first, second, and third, every single race. There was no Ferrari, Porsche, they were always getting in the back. Alfa Romeo, Porsche, they're always Ferrari. They're always losing against Mercedes. Mercedes was like first, second, and third. First, second, every single race. Okay, Ferrari had no chance. Porsche had no chance back then, and no car had a chance against Mercedes. Then in the '60s, a really, really bad accident happened. You see, back then they used to race on the street, and there was no guardrail. There was nothing to protect, right? So the street, there were a racetrack. So the people, they used to stand on the side of the street. And so what happened in that race in the '60s, so remember, it was always first, second, and third.
Yeah.
Mercedes. Two Mercedes, there was first and second, they were dabbing an Alfa Romeo, and the Alfa Romeo touched one of the Mercedes, and the other Mercedes touched the other Mercedes, and two Mercedes went off the road and killed, I think, like 80 people.
Oh, my God.
It was a massacre. So from that day on, Mercedes said, never, ever, we're going to race again. And then when, Ferrari and Porsche made a name for themselves, but then they went back in the 90s, to race Formula One, and soon they came back, right, a year just to tweak their motor, and all of a sudden, boom, 7 championships, one after another, nobody could stay with them.
Wow.
It's that company invented the car, okay? And they know every 5 years they come out with a Mercedes called the Black Series. And Mercedes Black Series is to tell the world, screw you, we're still the best. It's handmade. Those cars, they're handmade. So let's say you have a Cell 65, right? They only make like 175. And then you have a SLS Black Series. They only make 132 in the world. And then you have the Mercedes GT 300, right?
Yeah.
So those cars, they're hand-built. I mean, the last one cost Mercedes. Mercedes cost is $750,000 per unit. But Mercedes doesn't care because, it's like they make so much money with the other cars. They just, it's to tell the world, we're still the best. We still, if we want to make the car the fastest, the best on the racetrack, we can still do it. As a matter of fact, the standard is Nürburgring. Nürburgring is the most difficult racetrack, the longest and most difficult racetrack in the world. That's where every single company in the world, they test their car, including Ford, including Chevy. They bring their car to Nürburgring, Germany, because It's very, very long and very, very difficult. Okay, so that's the standard. When you say our car is the best, okay, you have to bring an Uber in and show that you're the best. So the before Lamborghini had the record lap record, then Porsche with the GT2 RS, right, and then Mercedes brought the Black Series GT, right. So they did one lap just to warm up the tire, and the second lap they shatter the record the GT2 RS Porsche had, just to show it, and just to say, okay, now we're done. They only did one lap after
incredible.
So that's how good they are.
Wow.
But Porsche is right there. I mean, Porsche is like, they make amazing
They're
car.
amazing machines. I've had a
You know,
turbo 911.
They don't break.
Yeah.
They're unbelievable. It's like, because every car every 5 years change the model, change the body. Porsche have that body for the longest time. But they
It's a
always make it
sexy ride,
better,
boy.
better,
Porsche is
and
beautiful.
better and better. So that car now, it's perfection.
Yeah.
So GT2 RS and GT3 RS is perfection.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing this.
Oh, please.
I mean, your stories with the Vatican and what it was like to be in the Army and then finish off with the cars. It was the best, brother.
Thank you, man. Thanks. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure to have you here. If you have anybody you care about, share this episode. It's so enlightening. Fabio's journey with life and how appreciative he is of being an American, which we all should be, is something that's so substantial. So please share and subscribe. We need your support. And thank you for most for watching.